through my fucking what is this? Get out of my face. Should uninstall that. I'm good. I get set up for stream. I'm so fucking professional. I should make a better setup for my YouTube streams. I have all this fanfare for my I have all this fanfare for Twitch streaming. I don't have that for my YouTube streams. And I feel like, hey Ray, I feel like I should probably do more to actually do a decent setup for YouTube. Like at least I could do like a scene for. Hang on, let's do a scene for. This is starting. What do I have for starting scene? I have some things, right? I could put over here. Overlay. Oh, free Halloween. Overlay. Oh, okay. I have this. Screen stream ending. Be right back and background. What if I put this here? That doesn't quite work. Oh, hi. Froggy-chan. Hello. Okay, so none of this works. Let's see. What if I took the chat, right? Chat. How do I have the chat on here? Is window capped? No, it's browser source, right? Chat box. Okay, if I took the chat, I put it here. Yeah, like that. There you go. So the chat's there now. I don't know how to do this. Where's my ending? Ending. Stream ending. What does this look like? Oh God, it's supposed to have shit in it too. No. Oh, there's an alert box. Donation ticker. Oh God, I don't know how this is supposed to work. Avocados wet. Hello. Howdy, Alan. I'm so bad at this. I'm not a streamer, man. I'm not a streamer. I am a YouTuber, and I don't know what I'm doing. Alan, hello. Jared, hello. SJ owns 100, hello. Ever love your content, dude. Thank you. I appreciate it. 2014? Dude, thank you so much. Going on, Jimmy. Hey, how's it going? I'm getting set up. I was going to try to make this better. I don't think I'm gonna make this into a better thing. Maybe one day I'll go through and actually make this. This is such a secondary thought, which is weird, right? My YouTube is obviously my primary thought, but like compared to Twitch I think was like such like a hobby thing. This became just like silliness on YouTube to fuck around with shit. So now I'm so lost with what to do here because you guys don't know me as like you guys know me as a voice, right? You guys don't know me as a fuck around man who's making jokes, and I guess you know me as making jokes. You guys don't know me so much as making like video game content and things like that, like I do on Twitch. You guys on Twitch, you guys are used to this. You guys are used to a whole bunch of zingany shit that I'll put together on stream. I don't think I've done that very much at all for YouTube. So I'm trying to keep this a bit more concise for YouTube. You guys just get the little PNG guy, and then you get this. So, or also you'll get Audacity in the background because Audacity is important whenever I'm recording stories. Which I'll open up Audacity right now. So you guys see this. Tres Daddy, hello. Shins V Kimmy, hello. Hey, Goodwin. Cody stories for the channel. I'd write I could use the change in time after getting done watching a truly devastating 1960s French existential film. Wow. Pokeon, hello. Am I Hispanic? I am not Hispanic. Creepcast at all? Yes, I do. I listen to Creepcast quite a bit. Windigoon is a cool guy. One story or more than one. I will be doing at least two. These are both pretty long stories, so I don't know about if I'll get to a third one. I'd like to get to a third one. If I don't, that's fine. The idea here is that I'm going to be recording stories for this weekend. Deeds from the Dead. From the Dead. This is written by John Taylor. I'll record two of them to go for this weekend. If they're too long for me to go through for just like one recording session here, then I will do probably like a compilation on Sunday. I don't know if you guys get bored of those compilations or not. I think they're good, but you know, Creepcast mentioned they're good. They're good shit, dude. Abandoned ship story. Creepcast did it, almost 1.7 million views now. That's amazing. Well, that was a good story, good one. To get you, Nephilim, thank you so much. Dr. Smiley, hello. You love all your ocean-related stories? Oh, dude, thank you. Those are some of my favorite stories to do. I think there's like a certain level of interest that I have in ocean stories and also space. I like space a lot. Doing space-related stories I think are really fun for me too. But you know, I can't always stick to those same themes. I try my best to mix things up as best as I can, so you're not going to get like the same story over and over again or the same setting over and over again. You'll get one this week, and then another one in like 2 weeks from then, and what have you. Unless they're, I guess, forest stories. Forest stories get a lot. I think everybody loves writing about stuff happening in the forest. Wild shit. Biggest dream is for you to narrate one of my stories or my book. No, that's awesome. No, Nephilim, if you have not emailed me one of those or the other, please do so. I'd love to take a look at them. You can't always promise that I could be able to do it, but you know, it is. I can always take a look. Okay, so how do you want me to do this? Nevertheless, it was there. Single cloud floated in dark, brooding silence, interrupted a tapestry of perfect blue. Sargasso sea amid an azure sky. Okay. I think I can do this. As always, whenever I record for the channel, keep in mind, I can see the chat. Chat's right here. I cannot always respond to the chat, because if I do that all the time, my editor gets pissy at me. So, I can go ahead and keep this open. Yep. I keep this open, so if I see anything big happen or anything like pop up in the chat, I can be here to be able to respond or type things out or what have you, but I can't always respond, so yeah, but I'm still here. I can still see you, I can still hear you, blah 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 blah. So please feel free to talk to me. It's very nice to know that you guys are here. You guys help keep me working, so I don't get distracted in the middle of my recording, which happens quite a bit. So I'm trying my best to not spend all my time I'm trying to spend not all my time like just talking, but also like doing stuff. And after the story, I'll hang out a little bit. We can be able to talk, and be able to like hang out, you know, as opposed to just me reading all the time. Also, for those of you guys who are wondering, this is live. The other live stream, that is Robo MCP. That one just plays stories all the time. Nonstop Horror Radio constantly plays stories. It would be cool if you guys wanted to hang out and listen to stories nonstop and Nonstop Horror Radio. But I also appreciate it when you guys are here because I can actually see you and talk to you and interact with you. Tank Blackheart, I've been a big fan since the gas station. Thank you so much. Dying to be loved. Dying to be loved, beloved. Dying to be loved. Dying to be loved. Thanks so much for what you do. I appreciate it. Chatter Johnson, thank you so much. Hi, how's it going? Okay. Test. A single cloud floated in dark, brooding silence. It interrupted a tapestry of blue, with a Sargasso sea and an azure sky on the sun-bleached Miami coast. It could be seen from every property on the beachfront. It had no evident purpose. It had no discernible effect on anything. Nevertheless, it was there. Fuck, hang on. I realized I fucked up. I needed to, this is for you. This is for you guys. I forgot to open this up. Thunderstorm. Fireplace. This one? There we go. That's for you. This is for you guys. There it is. Radioactive wildlife. Hello. John Taylor sounds like a conflict lies within you. We are recording stories for the channel today. Today, we are doing recording work. Does reading live make me nervous? No. Shin, I've been recording stories for I've been doing stories for 15 years. As of January, it's been 15 years. 15 years doing this. And I think doing a lot of I've been doing this also live for 10 or actually probably 13 of the 15 years, right? So I'll do not necessarily live streams, but I'll do live performances and things like that at conventions and things for quite a few years. It wasn't until recently that I stopped doing them because I needed to lower my stress because I almost died, blah blah. Thanks, Radioactive. But no, recording these live doesn't really bother me anymore. I think, quite honestly, probably for the first 3 years. The first 3 years I was really nervous doing these with other people watching. There's pretty bad imposter syndrome that comes along with it. But I think right now I've gotten a flow. I know the kind of characters that I can play, and I know how to do what I want to do with these stories. If it was something like maybe an audiobook that I knew was going to be much more reaching, maybe I wouldn't do it. But for stuff like this, for doing these stories, I enjoy doing them live. And also, again, you guys, it's nice to have you guys around because it helps me to keep working, as opposed to getting distracted or having a game open or something like that. So I'm just trying to do this. Kaylin, hello. Okay, we're going to go to the story one more time. Now that things are correct. A single cloud floated in dark, brooding silence. It interrupted a tapestry of perfect blue, with a Sargasso sea and an azure sky on the sun-bleached Miami coast. It could be seen from every property on the beachfront. It had no evident purpose. It had no discernible effect on anything. Nevertheless, it was there. On a sun-baked penthouse balcony, a frustrated videographer wrestled with a light. On a sun-baked penthouse balcony, a frustrated videographer wrestled with a light reflector and camera, while enduring a barrage of narcissistic self-obsession. Bro, no cap, what's with the weather? Think I could be out here with clouds in the background? I need the shot to be peak perfection, just like me. Gotta be flawless. The owner of the voice and the penthouse was Blake Jonas. He was sitting on the edge of a long pool overlooking the generous roof terrace and its private tiki bar and conversation fire pit. But none of that seemed to be making him happy right now. Yo, set up right here, bro. By the bar, then we get a clear backdrop. Do I have to think of everything? Sorry, man. My bad, the videographer replied, sucking in a sigh. You're Toby's brother, right? Where is he? The boys? You're Toby's brother, right? Where is he in the boys? Blake asked, looking at his watch. Yeah, I'm Dan. You sent Toby and the others out for iced coffees and the, Dan's voice trailed off. And what? Blake demanded. Dan's face strained as he looked around. He was out of his comfort zone, not wanting to say the word out loud. You know, the other thing you wanted them to get? Oh, yo, the girls are the party favors, Blake replied at full volume. So, you got that sorted? We're trying to flex hard tomorrow. No, like I said, I only came here... Dan said it patiently, as if explaining to a child. He only met Blake last night, and so far had been far from impressed. Toby asked me as a special favor to do your video so that he could enjoy the party with you. Yeah, where's Toby? Blake said yet again, stuck in a cycle of thought. He wasn't even listening for an answer anymore, just staring to the horizon. Blake was part of the intellectual virus that blighted the 21st century. One of the flood of influencers, talented or lucky enough to have gained celebrity status on social media. He had nearly 200 million subscribers, and if you looked at the metadata, you'd realize they were slowly becoming increasingly younger than him. Blake would turn 30 tomorrow, but he didn't think it fair it should happen so soon. He had a legacy to secure, and becoming older wasn't helping. Dan, the videographer, was now set up and ready. This was the only filming Blake intended to do today. A 60-second short before the party tomorrow. As soon as the camera clicked on, it was as if he became someone else. His face lit up, and his whole demeanor became instantly friendly and fully enthused. Hey everybody, welcome to the location of my big party tomorrow. There's going to be a whole lot of influencers coming and some special guests, so look out for a surprise appearance or two tomorrow. I can't say too much, but you know me and my people. Y'all know it's going to be huge. I know some people out here be hating, but I'm sending nothing but love to you all. And this message is your own VIP virtual invitation to join me online here, because the first hour of the party is going live tomorrow. It's gonna be epic. Blake pulled out a custom vape. His vape. A vulgar gold lump. Its diamond finished, flashing prisms across his tanned face. He took a deep hit before blowing out a thick white fog of strawberry unicorn tears. It was, of course, his own brand. He savored the moment, then delivered his well-worn catchphrase. We just vapors, forget the haters. Like, subscribe, don't forget our next... Oh, God. Like, subscribe, and don't forget our great new flavors in the shop. Click on the link for my birthday discount, and be sure you check out our new flavor, Optimus Lime. Peace! As soon as he ended, the glass door slid open, and in bounced Blake's entourage. Tanned, teeth gleaming, over-caffeinated. They greeted him with a chorus of tired cliches. VIP, dude! Good things come to the... Okay, that sucked. Sometimes this thing, the streaming mic will break, and when it does, it breaks the Audacity. What's this? Weed story? By the way, it's a weed story. Okay, let me find where it broke. VIP, dude! Good things come to the... Okay, so I can just start there. VIP, dude! John Taylor. You hear, I love this story so far. Bro got technical difficulties. It happens, Leon. JT Cookies, how's it going? VIP, dude! Good thing, though. Good things come to those who wait, my man! All good, bro. Blake's smile dropped the moment the camera wasn't rolling. What time, what time do you call this? Oh, wait, what? Oh, God. I don't know. I don't talk like this. I don't know. What time do you call this? I've been out here grinding. Chill, man, Zach said, handing over a triple-iced frap. We got your fave. Blake sucked on the straw and his mood lifted a little. It was a pretty good milkshake, as far as coffee went. His mood easing only slightly. All right. Where's my stuff? Zach shifted uneasily. Yeah, about that. Blake glared at him. Look, Curry's, but for the VIP shit, whole different game. This guy only deals one-on-one, face-to-face. Said he only talks to the real star. Blake was incredulous. You're serious? I'm supposed to go myself? Dude's old school, exclusive. Pharrell, Slater, LeBron, all go to him. Said you're the chosen one. The others chimed in with soft agreement. Yeah, man, he's legit. Said he only deals with legends. Blake's ego inflated on cue. Fine. Let's go meet Mystery Man. This is Matt. This is a scene change. 1 hour later, Blake's Tesla rolled up in front of a shabby, flat-roofed building. And little... Okay, 1 hour later, Blake's Tesla rolled up in front of a shabby, flat-roofed building in Little Havana, across the road from a supermarket that was short on windows, but big on check-cashing services. Some dirty Miami bass blasted from the balcony of a nearby apartment. It was not a tourist hotspot. Half of Blake's posse had come along for support. They were staying in the car whilst Blake went inside. 2 of Blake's mid-level security guys had parked up in a black SUV half a block away with a good line of sight. They had strongly advised Blake against this, and, as usual, had been strongly ignored. Better security specialists would not work with clients like Blake because of his attitude. Stepping out of the car, Blake walked up to the ubiquitous... palm trees that stood on either side of a reinforced metal doorway. It was only the intercom that gave any sense of confidence that the place was still in use. It appeared to have been machined out of brass, with bake-like buttons straight out of the 1930s, and an Art Deco speaker grill. It was not a new piece made to look old, but an old piece that someone had scrupulously managed and... It was not a new piece made to look old, but an old piece that someone had scrupulously managed and polished for the better part of a century. Blake became aware that his mouth had gone dry, and a shiver ran down his spine as he pressed the button, despite the 95-degree air temperature. Looking back to the car, he saw his boys laughing and waving at him. You got this, bro! They mouthed in air-conditioned comfort through the car's double-glazed. Blake threw up his hands in a double shaka sign, fingers and thumbs extended, and was about to shout something back when the intercom buzzed with static as door bolts snapped in like gunshots, making him jump. Blake froze for a moment of rare uncertainty, but then pushed the door open and stepped inside. He entered into a short, dark passageway, lit only by the soft amber glow of the room ahead. A beaded curtain covered the doorway, obscuring a clear view of what to expect. Come in. Been waiting for you. The voice was deep, dry, and had an almost musical edge to it. Blake pushed on through the curtain to be met by a tall, thin man in an old, dark suit. He was leaning on the far side of a mahogany counter. His head was shaved. It was hard to put an age on him. He could have been anywhere from 35 to a well-kept 70. Waiting for me? Blake asked. his eyes glancing around him. He was looking at row upon row of shelving and cupboards, fronts of all sizes, all of them built in that same polished mahogany. It had the feel of an apothecary, but the air smelled like a funeral home. Glass display cabinets sat on the countertops and hugged the far wall, all of them filled with drug paraphernalia. Yes, sir, waiting for you, but mine not. My time here is of no real importance. Blake watched the tall man brush invisible dust from his sleeves. The place appeared spotless. Just antiquated. Blake double looked at him, thinking, is this guy for real? Then he remembered why he was here. Alright, cool, man, cool. This place is, kind of interesting. Look, I don't usually do this. And my people said you wouldn't deal with anyone else but me. But honestly, this isn't what I was expecting. You're the guy I need to talk to? Indeed. I am the guy, the man said back to him, leaving an uncomfortable silence hanging. Okay. Okay, I'm here for the man straightened, gliding up to full height and raising a finger to his lips. Blake realized now this guy wasn't leaning onto the counter. He was ridiculously tall. Easily 7 feet, pro basketball height. Blake puffed himself up subconsciously without realizing it. He was the big man here, not the shushed by some creepy dealer. Oh. He was the big man here, and not to be shushed by some creepy dealer. He was about to say something to that effect when again the man spoke. You're here for the stuff. The package. The shiz. The dope. Of course you are, and I'm here to provide my expertise and my service, ensuring you get exactly what you need. What I offer is not what you find anywhere, for I only deal with a select group of very important people, because what I provide is very important. Blake's ego was sated, and he found himself listening to the melodic rise and fall of the tall man's voice. Tell me, sir, have you been to a fine restaurant, encountered a sommelier? About 5 years ago, Blake wouldn't have had a clue what a sommelier was, but that didn't stop him from dropping a fortune at a swanky LA restaurant, filming the whole thing as he and his crew racked up a jaw-dropping tab on vintage wines. The sommelier, some poor guy, trying to keep it classy, dutifully poured the finest choices. Blake's crew roasted him on camera, swishing $9,000 a bottle of wine like mouthwash before loading it into a super soaker and blasting it into each other's mouths. It was outrageous, tasteless, but still, it had racked up millions of views. Yeah, Blake acknowledged. Wine waiters. The man didn't have any eyebrows, so he had none to raise as he replied. My role is perhaps a similar one. You can get anything you want from the streets, but what I sell is prestige, rarity, history. Do you like to be one with prestige, Blake? Blake nodded as he replied. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, dog. The man continued, unfazed. I deal in what can't be found elsewhere. In 2018, a bottle of Dome della Romani Conti. Domine della Romani. In 2018, a bottle of Domina della Romani Conti sold for $500,000. Not for the taste, but because it was the last from the year the war ended. People weren't just drinking wine. They were drinking history. That's what I offer. Provenance.
Authenticity. You buy off the street, you get mystery. Here, where it comes from is everything.
Blake was finding himself sold so far on the idea. He hit his vape, throwing out a big cloud above him. Yeah, I think I'm feeling your vibe. So, what you got?
I have anything you want. All from history,
he announced, moving to open one of the smaller cabinet drawers behind him with a flourish.
Elvis Presley's last packet of Percodan, only one tablet missing.
He stooped low to another drawer and hissed when it opened as he hermetically he stooped low to another drawer that hissed when it opened as if hermetically sealed.
Heath Ledger's Oxycontin from out of his very pocket. Johnny Cash's amphetamines, Michael Jackson's diazepam, Kurt Cobain's 9-bar. You can experience the highs from the greatest icons in history. Is anything of interest to you so far? I have more. Many, many more.
Blake only shrugged his shoulders and sucked at his teeth. This all you got? It's like leftovers from yesterday's celebs? Bro, I'm way bigger than that. Thought this was gonna be something special, you know? This is weird, man. No, I need something bigger. Something like next level.
Bigger than Elvis.
Blake threw out a shit-eating grin with a mock voice saying, "Uh-huh, I'm bigger than Elvis, baby." Once again, hitting his custom vape to create another huge cloud like a fog machine for his act. As it cleared, Blake's eyes were drawn to something high on the shelf, a gloss black woven box, intricately carved with letters embossed onto the front edge, picked out in gold leaf. And for a moment, all the world around him seemed to blur into insignificance. "Wait, what's that?" "What's that, bro?" Blake spoke up, pointing. The tall man didn't turn around to follow the direction of Blake's finger. Instead, he simply said, "No." "No?" Blake responded, furrowing his brow.
"No, I don't think that's for you."
"Yo, fuck you, man. Don't play me. Show me the good shit. I'm not here to get played or have you holding out on me. I'm here for fronting for some chuggy... Oh my god, what the fuck does that mean? I'm not here fronting for some chuggy tricks. God. Yo, fuck you, man. Don't play me. Show me the good shit. I'm not here to get played or have you holding out on me. I'm not here fronting for some chuggy tricks. You even know who I am?" The tall man appeared about to say something, but instead paused and slowly nodded.
"You are Blake Jonas, famed celebrity influencer and performer."
"I'm the celebrity performer, bro. I'm the celebrity influencer, bro. 200 million subs. Now show me that bad boy up there. The tall man stretched out his arms, slender fingers wrapping around the box, which he carefully placed upon the counter. Blake could see the golden letters clearly now. HPL. HPL. What's that? You, like, smoke it?
HPL is not a what, sir. It is a who. Howard Phillips Lovecraft. You, of course, have heard of H.P. Lovecraft.
Never heard of him. Such a cool box, though. What's inside? I never heard of him. Such a cool box, though. What's inside?
Again, sir, I really don't think this is for...
But Blake cut him off, raising a hand up as if stopping traffic. "Look, I want something special. I'm not walking out of here with a half strip of Percodan. I need something that will impress." "What's inside?"
This, sir, was Mr. Lovecraft's personal stash, his own blend of marijuana from 1937, though it's a sealed box.
I really couldn't vouch in good conscience as regards to its true potency. So what does Lovecraft do? So what did this Lovecraft dude even do? Like, what's his deal? He was an impeccable writer of horror stories, sir, but only achieved true recognition upon his demise. He's famous now, though, right? Like, legit? Oh, yes, sir. He left quite the impression, still influencing works to this very day. Oh, shit, influencer. He's like me. You know what, fuck it, I'll take it. As I said, sir, I don't think this is for you. Blake looked agitated. He was a man not used to not getting what he wanted. This conversation had swung back, and for too long. Blake looked agitated. He was a man not used to not getting what he wanted. This conversation had swung back, and for too long, Blake thought. He had other shit to do, and he really wanted that box. He clenched his fist as he spoke. Now look, stop being a creepy NPC. I said I'll take it. HP Crafty Love Stash. I'm in. How much? For a split second, the man appeared to grow even taller, and Blake felt that chill he'd experienced earlier return. But the man just nodded before carefully placing the box into a brown paper bag. So what's this gonna hit me for? Blake asked, if not demanded. No charge, sir. Consider this a gesture of goodwill. The man replied, a reptilian smile growing ever wider as he handed over the bag. Staring down into Blake's eyes, he added, I look forward to our next transaction. Weird, creepy motherfucker, Blake thought to himself. Makes me go through all this performative bullshit. He doesn't even want my money. Fuck him. I'll never be coming back here. Free stash, though. Another win for Blake. All he said was, okay. Nice one, bro. Before snatching up the paper bag and heading out through the beaded curtain and towards the exit. Just before he reached the door, he heard the man raise his voice one final time from behind. And sir! Blake slowed, half turned. I hope this birthday delivers everything that you deserve. Blake rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. The door clicked open and he emerged squinting into the blazing Miami sun once more. Blissfully ignorant, he'd never mentioned his birthday once. Walking back to the car, he saw his friends talking with his private security. They explained they were just about to go in, as they'd been waiting for him to come back outside for over an hour. No way, man. It was like 5 minutes tops, Blake told him. They just shrugged, knowing better than to contradict him. Matt, scene change. By the time they arrived back at the penthouse, Blake had distracted himself with his to-do list. Everything needed to be perfect for tomorrow, and the day had gotten away from him. The lift doors opened, and they all spilled into the penthouse. Blake headed straight to the glass panoramic doors onto the roof terrace. The fuck is this? Blake exclaimed as his followers joined him. The dark cloud that had been far out at sea that morning had drifted inward, slowly rolling straight towards them and blocking out the ocean view. It churned as it drifted, as if stirred by an invisible hand. Hey, don't worry, man, said Zach. It's gonna blow right over. Blake could only shake his head in dismay. This ain't right, Bo. This ain't right, bro. Get it better. But the cloud did not blow over. It rolled ever closer. As they stood watching from the heights of the penthouse, it seemed almost level with them. Zach, sensing Blake's mood darken to match the billowing mass, decided to distract him. So you never said, what did our VIP dealer hook us up with? Zach's ploy worked. Blake remembered the dark box and had everyone follow him inside. He pulled it from the bag with a flourish. Nice, Zach said. What's the letters for? Asked Toby. It's this dead famous guy's weed. It's his initials, HBL. L's for Lovescraft. You've heard of him, right? Zach, Toby, and the others shook their heads. Only Dan, the videographer, spoke up. You gotten a hold of H.P. Lovecraft's stash? How can you guys not have heard of him? See, Toby, this is what happens when you don't read. The guy was out there. He was the master of, like, cosmic horror, twisted, crazy genius stuff. I wouldn't be touching that I wouldn't be touching that for anything. I mean, seriously, guys. Probably leave that shit alone. Well, lucky for you. Well, lucky for us, you're just the video guy, and I don't know how we Well, lucky for us, you're just the video guy, and I don't know how we party out here. Snapped Zach at him, much to the laughter of the others. Dan looked towards Toby, his brother, for a little support. He was out here doing a favor for him, after all. He didn't care much for Blake's content or his character. Yeah, fuck you, bud. We don't need a babysitter. This here's the good shit, VIP shit from history, Blake announced. Look, you do you. Look, you do you, but Toby, don't be doing this, Dan implored his brother. But Toby only seemed embarrassed with his younger brother's protest, caught between family ties and the trappings of celebrity. He made his choice. Why don't you take a walk, man? Grown-ups are gonna light up. Dan's skin flushed red with anger and outrage. He slammed down the camera he'd been holding onto a nearby table and stormed out to the lift. He couldn't stand any more of this bullshit. Woo! They chanted in mocking outrage as the doors slid shut with a sense of finality. I guess, I don't know if that's a scene change, Matt, but there's like a definite break here, so I don't know. Blake perched on an overstuffed sofa as his entourage gathered around him. He found a latch on a small black box and unclipped it. Old rubber seals reluctantly relinquished their grip, and the top swung open to rest on its hinges. Instantly, the unmistakable aroma of weed hit the room, a rich, musky, pungent scent like no other. Notes of pine, sweat, and earth flooded their nostrils. It was hard to believe it was over 90 years old. But maybe it wasn't, thought Blake. Maybe this whole thing was a con. But then again, he hadn't paid anything for it, and it had to be the best-smelling grass he'd ever encountered. With the rain cloud looming outside, what else was there to do, he thought. 5 minutes later, Zach had rolled up a fat cone, just one, just to try it out. Couldn't hurt. And it could take the edge off Blake's mood. He offered it to Blake, but Blake insisted that Zach try it first. No worries, thought Blake. No worries, thought Zach. Thumbing his lighter, he sparked up and closed his eyes, drawing deeply. The smoke flooded his lungs and expanded. He sank back into the sofa before finally blowing out a cloud. Well? Asked Blake. Bro, this is bomb, Zach declared with a widening smile. Okay, pass, said Blake, taking it from him and taking a big hit. Each of them passed it in turn, nodding with ever-widening grins and giggles with their appreciation. None of them noticed the dark cloud drift to the glass doors. Not until the glass shattered. Matt, can you give me like a breaking glass sound here? That'd be a nice sort of like break from the ridiculousness to like the horror. I think that'd be good here. Just kind of like a sound effect to break it up. What the fuck? Shouted Blake in alarm, spinning around to see the glass spill across the marble floor and a dark shadow flicker through the mist outside. They sprang up. Zach was first to the gap left by the absent door to see the cloud had settled right on top of them. What was that? He shouted, steadying himself as he walked through the broken glass, scrunching underfoot. He looked up. The cloud whirled in slow motion, a circular vortex of grays and blacks that poured mist down to him. Small clips of lightning danced on the edges, self-contained. He looked back to Blake and friends. Bro, you gotta see... A thick gray tentacle arched down from above, wrapping around his torso and head. It seemed to happen instantly. It ripped him in half with a fountain of blood that splashed across the terrace and into the penthouse, splashing across those who had been nearest. Blake's head swelled, no longer feeling like his own. His heart felt twice its usual size, and a thick feeling of nausea flooded through him as he felt rooted to the floor. Two more tentacles now thrust into the room, emerging from a vast dark mass in the cloud's shadow. These were as thick as tree trunks. One smashed Blake aside, cracking his ribs, and it picked up a screaming Toby and flung him against the wall so hard you could hear his skull crack open. Blake turned to run as another thick tentacle suddenly blocked his path before whipping backwards with another two victims, compressing its coils, flicking them into the dark maw of the cloud above. Blake could only watch on in terror as the last member of the entourage crouched down behind a sofa. He tried to shout a warning as the creeping menace slid behind him, but it was too late. A sucker the size of a dinner plate planted itself over the man's face, muffling his cries as it slowly withdrew, grating his body against the broken glass, painting the floor red with his blood. Then there was only Blake left. Ever more tentacles writhed and twisted their way inside, pulsing with malevolence, dripping with foulness. They blocked every exit but for the shattered door. Blake's temples pounded, his stomach retching with fear. Flooded with panic, he ran for it. And as soon as he made it through, he could not help but look up. The clouds swirled with lightning menace, and the thunder rumbled as something vague yet enormous emerged. Blake stared into a pale, sickly light cast from two glowing orbs that stared into him. They were eyes, huge and glowing with feverish yellow malice. Below them, a raging maw of tentacles descended, swaying in a vomit of movement toward him. Out of his mind, with fear, he turned. He ran to the edge. And he jumped. Scene change, Matt. That's good. We don't fade that out. That's a solid moment, right? He jumped to his death. So fade that out, and then we're scene changing. The news report and the original police report were not quite the same. The news reported that Blake Jonas had jumped to his death following a drug-fueled murder spree the night before his 30th birthday. The police report had been different. It was based upon recovered footage from a camera that had been left on a table and still recording. Men in dark suits, government ID, and military sunglasses had collected that original report and that tape within the hour. It didn't show tentacles or otherworldly creatures, but it did show a man being ripped in two by an invisible force, another suddenly being catapulted into a wall, others being levitated, tossed to their deaths. And one last thing it showed before the battery died. It showed a tall, thin figure entering the room and taking an unidentified item from the coffee table before leaving. "50 years later, at an undisclosed location, a quiet transaction is taking place. This is Blake Jonas's vaporizer," the tall man says, placing a gold-plated device on the polished counter. "Blake Jonas? Who's that?" someone asked. The tall man smiled. "He was influential." That was good. That was pretty good. Influential. That is certainly a more clickbaity title, I think. So we're gonna do that one. How's it going, guys? Radioactive, thank you. It's Cthulhu. They fucked Toby up, dude. They really did. Random Guy 9. Random Dude 9. Expect a cosmic horror comedy story. I think that was pretty good. I liked that one. Okay. Let's clear this. And we'll drop it to that real quick. Before we go on to the next one. Yeah, I'm in complete support of Toby being brutally mauled. Carl Cthulhu. Toby deserved it. I took a moment while you were recording to send you a couple of stories of mine. Oh, really? Oh, hang on. You know what, good one? I'm just gonna open them up right now and then see if there's a good Cthulhu. Oh, let's go to map drive. If there's a good Cthulhu one, maybe I'll just do. Oh, maybe not. If there's a good ocean one, maybe I'll just do that. I don't know. Distress buoy. Interesting. That's a cool one. Did I not do this one? Oh, okay. This is a series. How long is it? How long is this series? Part 2. Doing good, by the way. Creepypasta, love your stuff so much. Dude, thank you so much. It's a 2-parter. That's not so bad. Okay. You know what? I'm down a clown till I'm dead in the ground. Wait, I liked this one before. Did I? I didn't send you a message about this. I have a like on this, meaning that I must have seen this at some point and had it to message you about. Oh, fuck it. You know what? Okay, you know what? Fuck it. We're doing it. Story titles. What about you use the image from Iron Lung of the distress buoy? Have you guys seen Iron Lung yet? It's a really good movie. I really liked it. Iron Lung loved it. Yeah, it was good, dude. I like seeing a fun horror movie like that. I actually like slow movie. I don't know. There's also I do have a love for like slow horror, slow sci-fi. You know what I'm saying? In a local cinema. Oh, dude. I'm sure it's gonna. I think it comes to digital soon. Mark's been saying it's gonna be going to digital, but like it's a good movie. Like it is good to see. I love slow sci-fi. And that is absolutely like my kind of jam because I feel like Iron Lung is really sells on slow sci-fi horror, and it's really good. Okay, I work on a deep-sea fishing boat off the west coast of the U.S. For years, I've seen nothing odd or terrifying beyond an occasional storm or injuries given to crewmates by rigging or our catch. I've always loved the sea, and always felt safe and at peace on it. However, a few weeks ago, as we were pulling up our catch, something got tangled in our starboard net, and when we managed to pull it aboard, it turned out to be a distress buoy, one which had clearly spent a very long time in the water. We examined it, and we found a slightly faded stamp in the metal and polyurethane declaring for it to be turned in to the Navy if found. While the captain went to the wheelhouse to radio it in, I examined it further. Now, while the captain went to the wheelhouse to radio it in, I examined it further, finding the radio emitter broken, and then that explained why it had never been picked up. I also discovered... God damn it, Sarge. I feel like... patio on? I don't know. What do you call it? I'm recording. Stop distracting me. I also discovered a sealed compartment on the side, inside which lay a waterproof baggie. It contained many pieces of paper on which somebody with a very shaky hand had written. What unnerved me was the fact that they seemed to have dried bloodstains on them. And against my better judgment, I opened the bag and read them as we sailed back to port. When I finished, I immediately brought them to the captain, who turned pale as he read them. He jammed them back into the baggie and instructed me to place it back. The tone of his voice indicated that it was a demand, not a request. He also said that the Navy would be meeting us at the dock to collect the buoy. I did as he asked. However, before I did, I used the ship's scanners to make copies. When we got back to the port, we indeed were met by a large group of men who would say nothing about what we found. Again, when we got back to port, we indeed were met by a large group of men who immediately swarmed our small vessel. They took the buoy and made us all sign a bunch of papers saying that we would not say anything about what we found. All they would say was that it was classified. They also said that they'd financially reward us. When they left, the captain simply told us to forget about it. And since then, I've kept the copies hidden in my desk. Until now. I debated about what to do, and even thought about destroying them, but I figured that this needed to be shared. And here's the best place I knew. I know I'll likely get in very serious trouble for this, but I'll deal with it when I cross that particular bridge. There was a single date at the top of the first page indicating it was written in 2016. I'm transcribing the pages exactly as written, which may take a bit seeing as how some pages are difficult to read. I'm honestly not sure what to think of it, but if there's any grain of truth to what is written, I'm not sure if I'll ever step foot in the ocean again. Here's what it said. Okay, Matt, this is going to be like a scene change. And we want to change it to like the sound of ocean sounds. So, waves crashing, things like that. Whenever we're reading the note, which I'm pretty sure is just going to be a majority of this, we're just going to switch it to ocean sounds, so we have something different from the framing device and the actual story. To whoever finds this message, I beg of you. To whoever finds this message, I beg of you, do not let anyone attempt to mount a rescue operation for us.
By the time you find this, I, or anyone else on my team for that matter, will be long past the ability of anyone to save. I'm only writing this so somebody in the right position on the surface may have an account of the horrors that have befallen us down here, in the dark and cold void which has become my colleague's eternal tomb. And very soon, will become mine as well. And as a warning, to try and ward off any other scientists, military, or anyone for that matter from attempting to recover what we had been down. And as a warning, to try and ward off any other scientists, military, or anyone for that matter from attempting to recover what we had been sent down here to uncover and study. It may end up being in vain. God knows I know all too well now that us humans often fail to ignore the warnings that are subtly given to us to stay away, even when they're directly under our noses. But I have to make an attempt anyway with the little time I have remaining, before they find where I've hidden myself. For the record, my name is Desmond Windows. I'm 35 years old, and I was a professor at the University of Oregon Institute for Marine Biology. I've been teaching there for the last 8 years after graduating at the top of my class. I always had a quick thinking and tenacious mind, able to outthink and outperform even some of my own teachers. Due to my accelerated performance, I ended up graduating 3 years earlier than intended. I was personally contacted by the dean himself, asking if I'd be willing to take up part-time tenure to help the small and very much overburdened staff down in Charleston. I immediately accepted the offer. I always loved being able to teach others about my passion for the ocean and all of its creatures, but I told him that I would also be out at times of the year, since I also already agreed to sign on with a large oceanic research corporation, which for personal reasons shall remain unnamed. Due to my years of diving experience, especially since I had been certified as an advanced open water diver, I had also completed training and been certified to be capable of safely operating an atmospheric diving suit, or ADS for short. About 6 weeks ago, I was contacted by a fellow scientist, an old friend of mine, David Gimble. David Gimble and I had met at an oceanic conservation panel about 6 years ago, though his career had taken a vastly different direction than mine had. He'd been contracted by a private group that I had never heard of before to act as a consultant and the head diver of their underwater salvage and research division. He basically supervised the lower down members of his team on locating long-forgotten shipwrecks, maintaining oil rig platforms, excavating underwater ruins, stuff of that nature, and he was allowed in return to use their diving suits and submersibles to conduct studies on deep-water species of fish and crustaceans in his off time. He told me that the group had heard about my merits and expertise, not only on working in deep water, but also about my secondary degrees in ancient languages, archaeology, and oceanography, and they were interested in signing me on to an expedition currently underway. Apparently, while trying to map the ocean floor for wrecks, their sonar systems had detected an unusual anomaly about 4,000 feet below the surface. They had passed over the anomaly a few times more, using an advanced system called side-scan sonar. Basically, for those who do not know much about mapping the seafloor, it works almost exactly like the sonar systems that you have in all boats, except you use a towfish, or a torpedo-shaped device that trolled behind the boat, which emits conical pulses towards the seafloor across a wide area perpendicular to the path of the sensor, and, in basic terms, creates an image or map of the seafloor it passes over. When the team had reviewed the map created, they were shocked to see what appeared to be ruins on the bottom, across a 3-mile wide area. They had also discovered an American... Thank you. Ghost in a shell. They had also discovered an American World War II battleship located less than half a mile from the ruins, dug sideways into the seafloor. To them, they had more or less hit the jackpot. A previously undiscovered shipwreck, which would net them a hefty financial discovery fee from the Navy. It would appear to be sunken ruins from some ancient civilization which had once been above the water. It's stuff people in their profession usually only dreamt about. Immediately, plans had been put in play to set down a deep ocean research station for scientists, biologists, and other assorted team members to be able to study both sides. I stopped him at that point and asked him why they would need either me or him, which both of us knew how to pilot submersibles and ROVs. Our forte was in ADS suits, and the deepest one could certainly go so far in one was about 2,000 feet down, only halfway to the distance the sites were in. He leaned in, and in a hushed tone explained to me that the group had, in almost absolute secrecy, with the exception of the appropriate agencies, needed to certify and approve it for safety. Developed an advanced version of the new exosuits that could withstand the pressures at over 5,000 feet underwater. They said they could theoretically keep you safe to 7,500 feet, he told me. But it's untested. He then proceeded to tell me that his group wanted me to lead the diving team to explore, film, catalog, and potentially bring to the surface some of the ruins for surface teams to study, while he would lead the team to work over the shipwreck. They would pay me handsomely for my time, in addition to being named as one of the head discoverers of whatever lay down there. I would become immortal in the history books for my findings as well. The amount of zeros Gimbal gave me would be on my paycheck, plus the opportunity to be remembered forever went to my head immediately, and before he could even say anything else, I told him I would take their offer. Such a goddamn stupid decision. I was almost immediately afterward flown from the U.S. to New Zealand, where I boarded the group's ship, the Oceanic Explorer, in Auckland, and spent almost a week heading out to our destination, which lay about 200 miles from the Pitcairn Islands. When we arrived, we were greeted by 5 other ships clustered around one area of sea, 2 belonging to the same company, and 3 the Navy. They had rigged a platform that dangled between them, where the submersible could arrive, dock, and then disembark again into the depths. Once tied up with the other vessels, Gimbal and I were taken to a private briefing led by a man who clearly couldn't even fit into a diving suit if his life depended on it. No, he was clearly a topside leader. He sat us down, and after having us sign over a half a dozen non-disclosure agreements to make sure that we wouldn't blab to any reporters before they could announce their findings themselves, you can tell they had been fucked over before more than once by that problem, he showed us the map created by sonar. Both of us stared in almost utter shock at what we saw.
They were definitely ruins, all right. They lay in many patterns, the innermost almost circular in pattern, with outcroppings leading off in a straight direction. That was the biggest giveaway. Nature doesn't do such straight lines. He also pointed out that the battleship wreckage lying off the side, which David focused on, but I was too enthralled by what I saw to care. I studied every inch of the sonar image of those ruins, mentally mapping them into my mind, deducing where the best place to start my sweep would be. My mind was racing with endless possibilities as well. How old would they have to be to remain undiscovered for so long? Certainly I could understand why nobody had ever found them. We've only explored about 5% of the ocean so far, and anything could be hidden in that remaining 95%. After we'd finished with our regular briefing, the man named Lee Casey warned us that a tropical storm was brewing about 80 miles to the west of us, and was headed in our direction. He told us that if it didn't alter its course, the topside ships would have to pull out to a safer location until it passed, which he said out here could take a couple of weeks. We'd also be out of radio contact with them as well, which meant if any emergency arose beneath the waves, all we'd have would be the onboard doctor, her staff, and her equipment. We both told him that we understood, that we'd make sure to keep ourselves and our team as safe as possible. After we were both ushered from the ship onto the platform, where a lone 3-man submersible waited to take us down, carrying only one duffel bag of clothing and personal belongings each, we squeezed into the tight interior, and the hatch was sealed. 2 safety divers swam around us, making final checks to be sure the submersible was ready for the descent. One approached the small window in the front and flashed the OK sign to our pilot. I craned my neck to catch a final glimpse of the orange sunset disappearing on the horizon, and then we slipped quietly below the waves and began our descent into the deep. There's a reason why the area of water where we were heading is dubbed the Midnight Zone. When you're down there, you're so far from the surface that no light can reach you, aside from the artificial lights of the sub or the occasional flashes made by deep-sea creatures. There's nothing around you but blackness, an impenetrable darkness that almost seemed to reach out with vast, unseen clawed hands to wrap around you like it wished to suffocate you in its unending embrace. Even when you've dove in water this deep 100 times, you still get an eerie, almost primal sense of fear looking out past where the light cannot reach, because you can't see what lurks just beyond the veil. I feel ashamed, like a little child afraid of monsters under the bed or in the closet, by saying that I felt a huge sense of relief when I spotted the station appearing beneath us. The darkness shooed away by dozens of lights mounted on and around it. I could see other divers, in what had to be the new exosuits, plodding around the outside of the base, setting up their final camera systems and setting down huge cases of equipment for the coming days and weeks of exploration and surveying. Our sub moved into position and hooked onto a hatch that would allow us to transfer from it into the base itself. After the water had been drained and the pressure equalized, the pilot unscrewed the hatch and opened it for us to climb through. He gave us a cheerful smile and a pat on the back as we climbed through. "Have a good stay, lads," he called after us with an Irish accent. "I'll be seeing you in about 6 or 7 weeks. Be safe." We both thanked him, and he sealed the hatch again, disconnecting himself from the station, and slowly began his long ascent back up to the surface, leaving the two of us to marvel at what we had stepped into. It was clear that tens of millions, if not billions of dollars had been invested into designing
It was clear that tens of millions, if not billions of dollars, had been invested into designing the base. It had been placed directly between the two sites, and it was huge. Of course, it had to be to accommodate the number of people on our two teams, plus the 3 members of the medical staff. The entire structure had been made from a metal that could withstand the immense pressure pressing down on us from all sides. You could always hear the structure creak and groan as it won its endless battles with water outside. Right away, we were met by the base's leader, a tall, lanky man with hair that stuck out like the spines of a sea urchin named Carthers. Right away, we were met by the base's leader, a tall, lanky man with hair that stuck out like the spines of a sea urchin named Carruthers. He showed us to our cabins to drop off our gear, then escorted us to the main observation area and operations room, located on the center of the base. There was a rather large dome window dominating the far wall, made out of extremely strong and durable plexiglass that allowed anyone in the room to look out at the work. Any divers in the immediate vicinity were doing, along with a bank of consoles on the opposite wall that showed the views of half a dozen cameras mounted outside, and also ones that were mounted on the shoulders of the exosuits. I took a glance out the window at the darkness, just out of the range of lights, and unwillingly shuddered before shaking my head and turning back to Carruthers and Gimble. "You're absolutely obsessed with the ocean, and have been almost as deep as this before," I chided myself. "You know better than most people what really lies in the gloom, so stop looking out there and letting your subconscious think up things that aren't there." Shaking the feeling from my mind, I focused in and listened to the man speak. He filled us in on what had been done so far. He'd set up the perimeter around the base and had also set up rope guides with light poles leading to both sites, but hadn't actually begun any surveying yet. They'd been instructed to wait on our arrival to begin the stage of work. We were to rest up and meet our respective teams when they returned from outside. Tomorrow, we would both set out on our respective paths to begin our initial sweep. We would each be in charge of 6 people plus ourselves. He told us that everyone had been handpicked by the group's board members for their qualifications and merits, and that they could all handle themselves under intense pressures and time constraints. All they needed were natural leaders, and that was us. He first walked David through the info they had acquired on the battleship, and this time, I chose to listen out of sheer curiosity. He said the ship had gone missing halfway through the war without a single trace. The last report had been that they were about to be battered by a huge storm, but their last known location was what baffled me. According to the declassified military records, they'd been given by the Navy when the last known position had been transmitted, it was all the way up near the Philippines, thousands of miles away from here. My mind raced with confusion, trying to use reason and logic to come up with a sensible conclusion. How in the hell could they have been blown this far off course? I could understand they could have maybe been blown a few hundred miles from where they should, but this far? Surely they should have noticed, if not with their equipment, then at least by maps, the stars, the constellations. At least the fact there was no land for hundreds of miles. I couldn't make sense of it. The look on David's face told me he had the same thoughts. Carruthers explained that the U.S. Navy had been notified immediately about the wreck, and they had asked personally if it was photographed and documented for their records along with ours. He was the primary reason for their financial aid. They wanted to know what had caused the wreck as much as we did. After he finished, he turned to me and only said very brief words about my expedition. There wasn't really much he could say, anyways. They had little to no information about the ruins other than what I had told, what I had been told on the surface and the sonar map. He did say that he wanted my team and I to move very slowly, as nobody could tell how old they really were. After we finished documenting and cataloging everything where it lay, then we could begin to see if we could lift any pieces and bring them back to the base to study.
Mm-mm. 1 sec. I need allergy medication.
I told him I understood. We were ready when he deemed it was time to go. Inside, though, I was bursting with excitement and giddiness of a child discovering a Native American arrowhead in a stream. Couldn't wait to get out of there and set foot in a place that nobody could have seen in thousands of years. Even still, and though I mentally kicked myself for the ridiculous emotions I felt, I still refused to turn and look out into the abyss until I left the room and closed the hatch behind me. That evening, we met everyone at dinner in the galley. My team was comprised of 4 men and 2 women: King, Alton, Figueroa, Brockman, Notting, and Carpenter. All of them were very experienced deep-sea divers. King, Brockman, and Notting were commercial salvage divers. King, Brockman, and Notting were all commercial salvage divers. All 3 had worked together for over 10 years. You could easily tell that there were a distinct camaraderie between the 3 of them. Alton, Figueroa, and Carpenter were more along the lines of my work. Figueroa being a fellow marine biologist and oceanographer herself, and Alton and Carpenter had both graduated from Florida State with degrees in archaeology and oceanography, and were also accredited surveyors. We soon all struck up a friendly vibe from various discussions about our shared love of the water, of 80s horror movies, and various other subjects. And within an hour, we're laughing and joking like we'd known each other for years. I could see David had also won over his team, though I'd never gotten the time to properly learn any of their names. Now that I think about it, I never really learned any of their names, except for the few he ever said to me. We finished up eating and then each retired to our respective quarters to rest up for the huge undertaking we'd all be facing tomorrow. And while we may have all gone to sleep wishing the other pleasant dreams, with the exception of Figueroa being an apparent prankster, she snuck a rubber eel into Notting's bed, causing him to scream with an almost girly, high-pitched scream, which caused the rest of us to burst into uncontrollable laughter. I couldn't fall asleep peacefully. My mind was unable to shut down, and I tossed and turned, all the while feeling like there were fingers running themselves around the inside of my head. I glanced at one of the only personal possessions I had brought with me on the metal table beside the bed, a framed photograph of a smiling face. Long, raven black hair, olive-colored skin, and emerald green eyes. A white smile beaming out from an amazingly happy moment. Jackie. I turned away, unwilling to let my mind dive down that road, and again felt that weird feeling like my skull was being massaged and probed around from within. For a moment, I swore I could almost hear her voice calling my name. Desmond. I shook it away, forcing myself to ignore it and fall asleep. Knowing what I do now, though, if I'd realized what it meant, I almost feel like I would have willingly walked to one of the diving airlocks and let the water rush in, drowning all of us. It would have been a death less horrific and painful than what they ended up with. We awoke early the next day, all buzzing with anticipation of what we were about to do. My team and I were directed into the east airlock. And David and his were sent to the west. We all helped one another into our suits, and one of the medical team checked to make sure they were all pressurized and sealed. They sealed the inner airlock, and then flooded the room, pumping in seawater from outside. Once the room was completely filled, the outer hatch opened, and one by one, we slowly stepped out into the void. They had definitely done an amazing job on the exosuits. Can't deny that. They withstood the pressure outside perfectly and were only as slow and cumbersome as the older models were. Like the previous model, they were equipped with shoulder-mounted lights, built-in heating units to keep the freezing cold of the outside water at bay, and a remote camera mounted on the side of the helmet for Carruthers and the rest of the people inside to watch. Also brought over were 2 thrusters mounted on top of our oxygen canisters. They were controlled by joystick and switches inside the suit. Walking around on the bottom of the ocean is almost exactly like walking on the surface of the moon. It's extremely slow going, so the thrusters aid you in moving around at a faster pace. We made sure our comms were working, both between each of us and the base itself, and after quickly instructing my team to stay safe, take their time working, keep in constant communication, and most importantly to always work in teams of 2 and never wander off alone, we moved over to the equipment waiting for us near the beginning of the guide rope, picked it up, and then began our journey towards the ruins. The trip took us about 15 minutes to make. I was thankful for the guide rope and the lights that were spaced about 30 feet or so along the line. And after all, down here all it takes is a split-second one step into the darkness and you can easily become lost and disoriented. There are stories stretching as far back as the beginning of deep-sea diving of divers who became lost in the blackness, never to be seen again. I kept my gaze focused straight ahead of me, waiting to see my first glimpse of the reason I'd been brought down here. A few minutes later, I was rewarded for my vigilance. Holy Jesus, Mother of God, I heard Figueroa almost breathe. The sonar map hadn't been able to properly show the enormity of the site. The first stone pillars we saw covered with ages of muck, algae, and growth rose high above our heads, almost to the point that the top of them were out of sight in the gloom provided by the final guideline. We knew there were more beyond it, just out of sight. But the thought that all of this covered an almost 3-mile stretch wide stretch of ocean floor was almost incomprehensible to my brain. I was almost awestruck. My entire team was as well. I shook my head to clear it. We had a job to do. We had a job to do today, and only about 9 or 10 hours of oxygen to get it done. I turned back to my team and gave them their tasks of the day to perform. We all would work as one unit at first, setting up lights in and around the inner portion of the site to be able to properly see what was going on. We would all work as one unit at first, setting up lights in and around the inner portion of the site to be able to properly see what we were doing. Once that was finished, Alton and Carpenter would begin their surveying duties, using a remotely operated variation of the side-scan sonar system to give us a three-dimensional map of the entire site, which would then be transmitted back to the base for us to look over at the end of the day. While they were doing that, the remaining 5 of us would divide into teams of 2 to do an initial sweep of the area, shooting video and taking still photographs for documentation. We would do other tasks, including trying to date the ruins another day. With my instructions finished. Oh my god. Thank you. Hey, David, they go to Spotify, not SoundCloud anymore. We would do other tasks, including trying to date the ruins another day. With my instructions finished, along with a reminder to stay safe and alert, we began work. With the 7 of us working in tandem, we were able to set up the lights in less than 2.5 hours, and when we finished, the darkness had been banished away. The ocean forced to reveal what it had kept hidden for so long. It was absolutely incredible. Somehow, even after all this time, despite the ocean currents and the crushing embrace, almost all the pillars had remained intact, save for a select few that had crumbled into large piles of stone. Alton and Carpenter had already begun their survey. You could easily hear the whirring of the sensors as it wound its way through the ancient structures. Occasionally, you could see the bright yellow machine move slowly over your head as they joked with each other and made bets about who would win an upcoming baseball game they would miss. Meanwhile, we had each teamed up and moved slowly down the rows of pillars towards the circular center. I had chosen to have Figueroa partner with me. Not only had she and I developed the best rapport of everyone, but in my professional opinion, she seemed the most centered, calm, and astute of the rest of us. We each took a side and photographed pillars every couple of feet, getting closer to where all converged, maintaining constant radio contact with each other and the other groups. About halfway down, she called me over to her side. "Take a look at this, Windows," she said, and proceeded to use the claw hand of her suit to rub away the muck as gently as possible. For a second, I couldn't distinguish a damn thing. But then I realized what she had spotted. There were images carved deeply into the stone. Some were pictures, others were what I could only assume were hieroglyphs, or an ancient language I couldn't read. I didn't need to, though. The carved pictures were sufficient enough to explain themselves. Depicted on the small portion of exposed stone that I could see was what I can only describe as something truly monstrous. The creature was gargantuan in size, with the head of a wolf eel, one gigantic black eye staring directly at the viewer, and an almost humanoid body covered in what appeared to be black scales. It reached towards the surface with webbed, clawed hands for what looked like a tribal boat. Its occupants cowered in fear at their sealed fate. Around its torso swam smaller creatures, what had to be underlings of the monstrosity. They too appeared to be humanoid in shape, but with the heads of viperfish atop their shoulders. Their huge razor-sharp maws poised open to catch the unfortunate victims that managed to avoid death from their leader. I scraped away algae from the carving underneath and shuddered softly at the next image. The huge creature had dragged the entire ship down to the bottom of the ocean and was slowly torturing its victims. Huh. Torturing its drowning victims. Limbs had been torn off, and a clear expression of malicious glee adorned its inhuman features. Still, others were being torn to shreds by the smaller monsters. The carving was so detailed that I could see individual expressions of horror and pain eternally frozen on each person's face. My God, I heard Figueroa say next to me. I shook my head. I'm as much of a science man as you can be, Liza. That... I closed my eyes. The images burned into the back of my eyelids. The furthest thing from God you could possibly get. I opened my eyes again, raised my camera, snapped off a few shots of the carvings, then turned away in almost desperate need to get away from whatever ancient civilization had conjured up that beast overwhelming me. Come on. Get to the center and finish up today's work. The circular center was absolutely massive. We estimated that it had to be almost 1.5 miles across from the end of one row of pillars to the beginning of another on the far side. Here and there we could see some smaller formations rising up to about chest height at varying distances. But for the most part, it was flat, save for an odd spiral that had been carved into the smooth stone, deep enough that the outline could still be seen when you dropped down onto it. You could feel the dips, even through the ages of muck. You could feel the dips, even through the ages of mud and muck that had accumulated over it. We all moved out to a distance of about 5 feet from one another as a team slowly moved across the other side. We were about halfway across when I heard Nodding let out a shout of surprise, followed by curses. "Everyone stop!" I called. "Nodding, you all right?" "Yeah, I'm fine," was the muttered reply I received. I needed more information, though. When you're working deep underwater, one small mistake can cost a diver's life. "What happened?" I pressed. After a few seconds of silence, he answered. "Goddamn gulper eel suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Come straight for my face, caught me off guard. I stumbled back into a rock formation. Nothing's damaged on my suit. I just finished checking." I let out a sigh of relief as the rest of the group burst out into laughter. "Oh, you afraid you were going to be swallowed whole?" Brockman said in a sing-songy voice, trying to lighten the mood. Everybody laughed harder, myself and even Nodding joining in. It helped loosen the sudden burst of tension that had fallen over us for that split second after all. Even from 15 feet away, I could see the sheepish expression that he wore through his faceplate. "I just got started to hell and back. That was all. I just got startled to hell and back. That was all," he said in return. He sighed. "I hate to say this, Windows. I'm sorry, but when I backed into that formation, I knocked it over." I thrust around to the others to inspect the damage. He was right. A small pillar had indeed been knocked over, lay on its side, a small shroud of muck settling around it. It still looked to be in one piece, however. "It's okay, Nodding, it didn't break at all. Just fell on its side. You're safe from being chewed out by me or Carruthers." He let out a relieved sigh, and then looked down at the gauges line the inside of his suit. "Thank Christ, we got 2 hours of oxygen remaining, boss. You want to finish up surveying this area and head back to base?" I didn't answer him right away. However, I was staring down at where the pillar had clearly been knocked out from. There was a slot there, a rectangular opening about 3 or 4 feet across. But it didn't seem to only go down a few inches or even a few feet. The blackness in that space seemed greater, almost as if there was a space much larger and deeper beneath it. I felt the same odd sensation in my head again, this time a little stronger, and for a split second I was overcome with a desire to peer into the slot, to even swim into it. It was almost as if something had hooked itself into my brain and was trying to reel me in. I was snapped out of my moment by Brockman calling my name. "Windows?" she asked tentatively. I looked up at everyone. They all wore puzzled, confused expressions on their faces as they stared at me. Shaking away the last tendrils of my insane thought, I pulled myself together. "Yeah, you're right, nodding. Let's finish this area and be done for the day." The next 3 weeks proceeded without incident for my own team, as well as David's. We both made very good progress on our respective sites, cataloging and documenting extensively. The feeling that I'd had during that first dive hadn't returned since, and I felt more like myself, more eager to learn all we could about the ruins. The surface team had contacted us 2 days ago and informed us that the storm was almost on top of us, so they would have to pull back until the storm either passed by or blew itself out. They did, however, authorize us to bring back a few pieces of the site to further study. We had very selectively chosen 3 smaller ones, using commercial lift bags to float them back to the base. Once inside, they had been brought to the lab for us to clean up and study. There had been more carvings depicting the same monster as I'd seen in the carving I examined the first time. Let's see why I have that, but okay. Along with what we now were sure had to be a very ancient language. Using specialized scanning equipment, we had put it into a computer and had set it to attempt to translate to English. So far, it had been running for almost 3 days with no success. We headed back out in the meantime to document the outer edges of the site, one of what we assumed to be our final initial passes. We had again divided up into teams of 2, and had fanned out over a distance of about 100 feet from the next team. This time around, I'd paired up with Carpenter, who'd volunteered to help me photograph and film the end of one particular row of pillars. We were about halfway done with our job when I noticed a glint of something red and metallic, reflecting off the glow of the nearest light. I turned, and I felt my jaw drop open. What in the absolute fuck? I was staring at a tricycle. A goddamn red children's tricycle sitting perfectly upright on the bottom, not even 20 feet from me. Confusion filled my mind. How in the hell did that get down here? I narrowed my eyes and tried to think of a logical explanation. It could have fallen off someone's boat as it passed over the area, but there were 2 things that seemed wrong to me. If it had fallen off someone's boat, it had to have been very freaking soon. It had all of its paint on it. There was absolutely no signs of rust. Not to mention that there was not even a tiny bit of algae covering it. But more unsettling than that was the creeping sensation I felt. That tricycle. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it looked familiar. Almost as if I'd seen it before, somewhere. Trying to shake off the odd feeling, I turned and called to Carpenter's back. "Hey, Sean, would you fucking look at this?
I just found an honest-to-God tricycle down here on the... I trailed off as I turned back. It was gone. It had vanished into thin air, or in this case, thin water. I blinked a couple of times, trying to rationalize with my own mind. What the... I shook my head hard, then looked down at my gauges, suddenly concerned with my own safety. Am I developing a nitrogen narcosis? It's a reversible, but at these depths, a very dangerous altercation in the consciousness caused by the anesthetic effect of certain gases at high pressure, which comes with a variety of symptoms, one of which includes auditory and visual hallucinations. To combat this, we were using a mixture of helium and oxygen in our air supply, but at these previously unventured depths with diving suits, I wonder if the mixture wasn't potent enough to ward off the onset. "You say something, boss?" I heard Carpenter call behind me. Still trying to come back to a conclusion in my own mind, I decided not to tell him what I'd seen. Not yet, anyway. Nothing, man," I called back. For another minute or so, I gazed out into the darkness, trying to piece together jigsaw puzzles in my mind to figure out if we should head back or not. Just in case my assumptions were correct, I decided I'd be better to be safe than sorry. "Hey, Sean, let's round up the others. Head back to the base. Something's not right here." He didn't answer me. I turned, my worry giving way to a small twinge of annoyance. "Did you hear me, Matt?" Carpenter was gone. There was absolutely no trace that he'd ever been there except for his bag of gear, which lay untouched where he'd put it down. What the shit? I looked down the row of columns to see if... I looked down the row of columns to see if I could see the orange-yellowish outline of his suit or the beam of his shoulder lights. Nothing. Where the hell did he go? Couldn't have slipped away that quietly. The thrusters make too much sound to do that. And unless he's somehow mastered running away underneath an 800-pound diving suit, he couldn't have disappeared on foot. Confusion gave way to the first tendrils of worry. I looked up at the nearest team to me, which was Figaro and Brockman. "Hey, guys," I called out in a voice that shook a little. "Did either of you see Carpenter pass by you?" They both looked over in confusion at me. "No, isn't he with you?" I didn't answer. Worry had begun to creep out, but worry had begun to creep up on by the time... Worry had begun to creep up... Worry had begun to be crept up on by the first real tendrils of fear. I tried to keep my mind in check. I had to control myself. All of my team were counting on me to get them back safely, but in my mind, I couldn't help it. The memory shot back to a painting I'd purchased for my house about 3 years ago. A painting of a deep-sea diver in an old-school suit, light emanating from his helmet, as dozens of huge tentacles appeared behind him out of the gloom, ready to snatch him into an eternal embrace and drag him backwards to a watery grave. I spun around to face the darkness that I had turned my back to, almost half expecting to see that very sight before me, but there was nothing there, just blackness. By this time I could hear the rest of my team churning up a frenzy over the comms. They had all heard me and were now calling out, trying to get Carpenter to reply to them. But to no avail. Carruthers was also trying to cut through the barrage of voices, trying to understand what was going on. Sheer panic and chaos had suddenly come crashing down on all of us. Pulling myself together, I summoned all the emotional strength I could muster. "Shut up!" I yelled, as loud as I could into the mic.
The jumble of voices ceased immediately. Quickly, I relayed to Carruthers what had happened and asked him what the best course of action would be to take, with the knowledge that we only had about an hour and a quarter of air remaining. He was quiet for a moment and then gave the order for us to search for our missing teammate for 15 minutes, no longer, then get our asses back to the base on the double. Copy that, I told him, and then told the rest of my team to gather up in my position. As one, we made our way through the ruins for the next 15 minutes, calling out over the comms, trying to get a response from Carpenter. But we found no trace. Of him at all. It was as if he'd been wiped from existence. With a vice grip around my heart and an unshakable feeling of dread coursing through me, I gave the order at 15 minutes for the rest of us to head back and stay close to each other. As we began our way back along the guideline, I swear that it felt like the darkness held at bay around us by the lights seemed to creep just a little bit closer, as if testing to see if it could reach us.
God damn. Good when you write long-ass stories. It's really good, though. But god damn is it long. That's really good. I think we've hit a point right now where I can... that's about as far as I could go during one stream. My voice is getting a little fucky. So I'm going to... Those of you guys who are watching on... those of you guys that are watching on Twitter, on YouTube, you will all... I think I'm going to have to... Yeah, I'm going to have to do this physically on the site. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and end stream here. For those of you that are watching on Twitch, we're going to be raiding into the very beautiful, the very lovely, the very wonderful Starry Skipper, who is playing Five Nights at Freddy's in her first playthrough. So everybody make sure to give her a good hello. Give her a good I love you. From me, from Mr. Creepypasta. And for those of you guys, everybody who's watching right now, I appreciate you so much for sticking around, helping me complete my work, and helping me get to new stuff, getting stuff finished. Watching on Twitter, with Grok, I appreciate you. I tried to turn on Twitter. Maybe if I can figure out how to get like this restream thing to work, I'll try to get it also to go on Twitter and all the other places. But you know how it is. I don't know shit. But yeah, everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. Help me stay. Be on here for these stories, to hear them actually clearly and all edited together with all the sounds and everything. They'll be coming out over this weekend. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.